So hi everyone, my name is Emily. I'm a product designer on the growth team, and I'm going to be here to share the UX scorecard for first time experience authoring a pipeline today. So the task at hand was really to grade the onboarding experience for authoring a pipeline for the first time, but at the same time, let's really pilot out this new onboarding scorecard and kind of work and adjust that while I was doing this UX scorecard. So as doing UX scorecards, we had a few steps we had to do ahead of time. The first being identifying a persona and a job to be done. We realized that the persona here would probably be Sasha or Devin coming in and setting up the CI pipeline. And the job to be done would be when I have a stable development operations organization, I want to author a CI pipeline so that others in my team can leverage CI to increase the efficiency of their tasks. The next key point in this one was to select the entry points. So as we know, there's like multiple entry points to get into authoring a pipeline for the first time. And I really worked with Nadia here to kind of choose 4 key flows users typically choose to enter into this. So those being the create a pipeline widget on the merge request page, the entry point on the empty state CI/CD page, as well as one where people are just finding out about CI/CD through a Google search, and the CI/CD button on the repo page. So these are the 4 kind of experiences I wanted to go through and grade and just see how they related to each other. So the third one is really map out the user journeys. So I took the time to go through each of the 4 flows and map out the user journeys by doing a self-heuristics evaluation of the experience. This was really helpful for me to just kind of see and compare these flows together and see how it worked. I then put them all into a mural board, made user journeys, and kind of worked the UX scorecard through there. And the 4th step here was to evaluate the experiences with the new UX heuristics. So this is really working with Jackie on this new heuristics scorecard, kind of scoring them all on these new heuristics and coming up with a final grade this way. So now I'll walk through kind of the 4 experiences I went through for this scorecard. The first being that widget on the merge request page. So in this experience, a user would be up creating a merge request without a CI pipeline, and then they would see the show me how to add a pipeline button there. This would be the first entry point. So if they click this, they're brought into this editor where they're prompted to choose a template. Thing I notice here is the templates aren't really explained. You can choose them, but there is no really explanation, but it really does show you where to go, how to choose them, what to do. So once you choose the template that applies, you're given the template there with some stubs on how to edit it, as well as a prompt to kind of commit your changes. And then finally, you get this like celebratory high moment that you're done, your pipeline is ready to go, and you can kind of see your pipeline in action. Which lands you on like the pipeline page where you can see it run. So this one was fairly quick. There was that celebratory moment after you're done kind of your first pipeline, which is nice. The second one is the entry point through the CI/CD empty state. So this is where you can kind of click to get started with CI/CD. And this one sends you straight into the docs. So this one is a lot more manual. You have to kind of read through like the CI/CD process, how to get started, navigate through the docs to kind of find this like getting started template page where you can kind of copy and paste this into a new file. So this is where you would kind of go here, paste in your code, kind of make the edits you need. And then you'd be sent to a merge request page where you would enable the CI/CD through this. And you can see your pipeline running. So this one was a lot more manual. It was a different experience than the pipeline widget for onboarding. Oops. One sec, the Zoom thing went in the way. There we go. The third one, which Nadia actually said is pretty common, is people just Googling around searching for GitLab CI/CD or CI/CD in general, and then landing in the docs from here. This experience is very similar to the empty state one, where they pretty much land in the docs. They have to navigate through this themselves, kind of onboard themselves through the docs. And the experience is very similar, so I won't go through the whole one, but this one again doesn't have many onboarding prompts for them. We don't give them much context other than what they read through, but it is similar to the one before. And the final one was users clicking on this setup CI/CD button on the repo page. So this is the fourth experience where they would get into this flow if they just click CI/CD. And this would bring you to this page where it gives you a little prompt on what you're about to do and tells you to create the new CI/CD pipeline. So from there, you're brought to this pipeline editor page with the side panel expanded, where you can read a bit more about GitLab CI/CD, check on some like templates you could use, how to run your first pipeline. There's a lot of information here, but we do give them more of like contextual information than sending them to the docs in the other two experiences. So then they could go into CI/CD examples, potentially like look here through templates, find a template that works for them, and your changes have successfully been committed. So that was the fourth experience going through this. Back here. So the results here, when I went through, some of the interesting things is that we have multiple different ways to introduce users to CI/CD. They don't seem to be aligned depending on what entry point they go through. All the entry points seem to have different experiences onboarding into it. But I did want to say that first experience where it was really quick through the onboarding widget was probably the best. It had a lot of contextual information on where to click. It gave the users context of how to do it, and it hit them at the right time. Some improvements here is the copy could be tweaked to further explain the benefits of pipelines. And while exploring this experience, I actually found a bug that led users to a 404 page instead of the pipelines page. So it was a useful experience to go through because while doing it, I found a bug myself. The entry point to the empty state CI/CD page rated a little bit less. This is the manual one where we sent them to the docs. We do provide users with all the information, but it is very manual. There isn't much onboarding help in this at all when they create the CI YAML file. And there really isn't like a celebratory or high moment for setting up your first pipeline. So there are a lot of improvements we could do to this flow. Finding out about GitLab CI/CD through the Google search, this is the lowest, obviously, because we don't really onboard them much at all. The experience you can get through, you just read through the docs, but we aren't really prompting them there. And again, there's a lot of opportunities here to encourage onboarding and like happy moments. And the final one is a CI/CD button on the repo page. This one scored second highest. It was easy to go through. There was a lot of information in that side panel, but we did give them all the information they needed. This entry point was a little hidden. It was hidden in all those gray boxes on the repo page, so it wasn't really obvious from first glance. And there's still a lot of focus on docs and templates users have to kind of find and copy over. So there's opportunities there. Another bonus while doing this is I was working with Matei and he came up with this great onboarding template, which we kind of worked into making a Mural template for anyone on the team to use. So I've published this onto Mural. If anyone's doing scorecards and they want to use this template, it is now kind of available for anyone to use. And it'll be linked in this slide as well as the issue that I've put in the agenda. So some key learnings and takeaways I learned from doing a UX scorecard for the first time is while I learned a lot doing this as a self-heuristic evaluation, I'd love to do a user walkthrough next time to get additional insights. So see how users actually react to going through this. This work highlighted piloted the new Ux Heuristics scorecard, which I personally found extremely easy to use. It was really easy kind of putting your scores into these heuristics and having it automatically calculate out a final score for you. So I wanted to say thank you for Jackie for all the work on that, because I think it really simplified the scoring aspect of the UX scorecard. As kind of like a newer designer here, it just gave me great insights into the pipeline authoring flows. So that was really great too. I have a lot more context. And a funny one for me is the key learnings is recording the UX scorecard. I learned that I think I stressed myself out a little too much recording it a few times before I thought it was perfect. And just learning to let go of that fear and kind of let yourself record and don't rewatch it. Don't judge yourself too hard was a big learning for me too. And just wanted to give a small thank you to Nadia for her amazing collaboration on this. I don't think I'd be able to do this UX scorecard without her, so really wanted to call her out on this as well, and the collaboration between Growth and Verify. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. I have a few questions, but I'm going to let other people ask their questions first. So it looks like Pedro has some.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I had initially 2 questions, but then it turned into 3 questions. Thank you so much, Emily. This was a nice walkthrough. We usually see the results of the scorecards and people record these walkthroughs outside of the scope of a UX showcase. And I think this is interesting because now we can ask more specific questions that maybe they wouldn't be so easy to ask if it was outside of the UX showcase. But anyway, it was very interesting to see the many ways that we introduced pipeline authoring. And I wasn't aware that we had such a big difference, or at least it looks like it's inconsistent. And I don't know if that inconsistency is intentional. But I'll start with the first question about quantitative data for those paths, and that do we have any data that would allow us to, for example, compare how many people set up their pipelines independently outside of these paths versus going through the docs and then setting them up, or going through one of these more guided paths?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's actually one I worked through with Nadia earlier on in the scorecard to kind of narrow it down to these top 4. So I can get that information for you, but yeah, there was a lot of information showing people coming in through the docs on Google. That was like a very common path users took. So yeah, there is information. I can get it and kind of link it to you if you're interested.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested, but I would be more interested if you would learn something from that data, and what would you do when making those interpretations? So I can make that, but I probably won't have the time to do something about it, and you have time to do something about it.
Yeah, no, that's a great, I think, yeah, it would be a great idea to see, hey, which path should we be focusing on first? If we know people are coming in through the docs, how can we make that experience better? If we know people are coming in through the widget more, is that an experience to focus on? So yeah, I think that would be very valuable information.
Yeah, cool, thanks. That makes sense. And so I take it that the plan is to narrow down to one of those paths more or less, and then try to, for example, there was that one that had the sidebar with some of the steps and then links to documentation. If we were to say this is the preferred way of guiding users when authoring pipelines, is the plan to use that method or that approach versus the others? Or do you think every onboarding approach makes sense on their own?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the focus we want to get into now, there are some experiments planned to kind of work with that pipeline editor with the side drawer out and test different onboarding steps through that and really make it a consistent experience through all the entry points. So the initial goal is to make any entry point into GitLab CI/CD similar, so you're not going through different steps every time you enter this from different areas.
Okay. And do you know if that would be something that your team would then drive, or would that then be given to the pipeline authoring team?
It would be a collaboration between the two teams. I've been in close contact with like Nadia and the Verify PMs, and my PMs have been talking together too to see how we can kind of run experiments and on that like pipeline authoring drawer and see how to best make that like the onboarding experience for Verify.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. That's perfect. And yeah, one idea that came to mind when you were evaluating all of these paths from an expert point of view, like you were saying, this path like ticks all of the boxes, and this one doesn't tick so many boxes. And also to what you were saying, that maybe you're going to experiment and see which one performs best. Would it be reasonable to ask, and I know we could be here forever talking about solutions, but like a quick reaction from you on an idea that would it be possible, reasonable to ask users to rate their satisfaction when they finish one of the flows? Because we have that celebratory thing, like saying, hey, you completed a pipeline, but we're not sure if people are happy with the process. Maybe they felt it was a bit confusing. They completed it, but it was a bit confusing, or you know what I'm saying? So what do you think?
Yeah. No, I think that would be great to, and something I highlighted kind of at the end of the presentation is it would be great to get users' insights on some of these paths, see what's working, see what's not. I know we have like a few A/B test experiments planned around onboarding into CI/CD. So I think that would be very, very useful. I agree.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Emily.
Yeah. Just add real quick, I think some teams are also looking at putting a little mini surveys in the app. So like after you finish a task, we could say, you know, how was this? And maybe it's just thumbs up, thumbs down or something like that. But we don't have that yet. I don't know. It could get to be too much. It's the kind of thing that could be overused, but that'd be interesting too.
I have the next question. Emily, thank you so much. I really enjoyed learning from you. This was real cool. Is there a boring first solution where we just improve the docs? I love that we're experimenting. That's cool, but that takes time and thought. Docs are faster to update. And it sounds like we do know which of those paths right now is the smoothest path. Since we know so much of the access is coming through the docs anyway, could we just a better job of pointing people to that experience right at the beginning of the docs, and then make any little improvements we need to the content?
Yeah, some of the actual, when I was going through it, there's the option to like send them out of the docs completely and always do like a onboarding, but there are options to improve the docs, like some small ones, like I saw the templates, you had to like copy and paste manually. Entry points into like the get started were kind of hidden. So I do think there are, if we wanted to do some quick changes to the docs, there are a bunch that I think we could do to make that experience smoother itself.
I think that would be amazing. And man, our docs team is all over it. So I highly encourage you to reach out to the technical writer of that area. I think it might be Marcel Amaro, but things kind of shuffled around. You might have to dig around just a little bit to find out.
Awesome, sounds good.
So I wanted to ask a quick question. The heuristics that we have listed are in different categories. Some of them are really specific to an onboarding or first time experience, and then some of them are more generic heuristics. So I wanted to know if like how relevant were the non-onboarding heuristics, and were there any where you were like, these just don't apply and you didn't use them?
Yeah, there were a few that when I was looking through, I was trying to see how they would apply. The first one was like I think, is my information secure? But then I realized if it was their first time going through it, that might even be more relevant than their second or third time going through. So I personally did use all the heuristics. I did find ways to link them back into onboarding, but I did like the flexibility to kind of zero the ones I wouldn't use out. So that ability on the scorecard, I think, is really useful in the future if I'm going through an experience and I don't find a particular one should be graded or should really be affecting the grade itself.
Cool, thanks. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we updated the onboarding scorecard, or just the UX scorecard template, to have weights in it, so that if there's something in there that really is less important, you could give it, like, you could reduce its weight all the way to 0 so that it doesn't factor into your score. So that's kind of new, and open to feedback on that. Cool. Okay. And does anybody else have questions? Okay,